Live your superhero life at Avengers Campus. This is Go Inform Podcast, episode 75. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Happy to have you here with me to talk about Marvel Avengers Campus at Disneyland. My name is Sue. I am your vacation maven here on the show. And today we're going to California to a former Stark Industries factory site, which has now become the California headquarters for Marvel's Avengers. I think anybody who's a Marvel fan is going to love this land, and I really think it's the kind of place that if you're a Marvel fan, you need to add this to your destination bucket list. So today we're going to take a little virtual tour all around Avengers Campus. We're going to talk about the rides, the experience, what it looks like, what it sounds like, and even what it tastes like. So stick with me and be sure to reference the show notes, which are at goinform.net/75. Because after you listen to this, you're probably going to want to send a link to the show notes to your friends and tell them you got to make plans to visit Disneyland soon. Avengers Campus opened in the summer of 2021, not long after Disneyland reopened after their long shutdown from the pandemic. So it's a new land in a place that a lot of people haven't visited in a while because it was closed. And it is a huge addition to the already really robust amount of attractions and cool stuff to see at Disneyland Resort. I think that by adding the Marvel Avengers Campus to Disneyland, this has totally become a multi-day destination now. So stick around. We'll talk about what makes it so special and some touring tips and how to plan your trip to go see all the superheroes at Avengers Campus. So Avengers Campus is located in the California Adventure theme park at Disneyland. There's two parks there, Disneyland and California Adventure, just right across the street from each other. California Adventure has all kinds of cool stuff to see and do, and has already one of the most immersive theme park lands in the world, which is Cars Land, which would also make a great episode. So maybe we'll dive into that one day. Right next to Cars Land is where Avengers Campus is. Now, Avengers Campus is a new land, but what they've done is they have kind of reclaimed some space that used to be a Bugs Life themed land, as well as the old Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, which has been rethemed into a Guardians of the Galaxy ride. That actually happened earlier, a few years back, and then this land has now sprung up all around it, giving you the sense that you really are in the multiverse with your favorite superheroes. Disney has created a really cool backstory for how superheroes got to the campus here and what it is. So the story is that this used to be a Stark Industries factory site built in the 1940s. And there's still buildings there that if you look around at the details and stuff, it looks like there's some old factory, buildings and stuff like that have been repurposed for the Avengers. And eventually, apparently, the factory closed. And then Tony Stark found out that there was these mystical properties going on at that site. He brought Doctor Strange in to work his magic, and They created this space that allows the superheroes to move across time and space at will and just appear at this Avengers Campus site. The name even has, of course, there's more depth to the story. So the name Campus is actually an acronym which stands for Centralized Assembly Mobilized to Prepare, Unite, and Safeguard. That sounds so Marvel to me. But so the idea is that when you are entering the land, you are kind of like a recruit to help the Avengers, capture, harness the power of the universe or some such thing. So this is meant to be a place where not only are the Avengers hanging out, but you as visitors are kind of part of the story too. In terms of what you're going to see when you first walk into the land, there's 3 different ways to get into this land, which makes traffic flow really nice. So it depends on which way you enter. If you come in through the main entrance, which is off the big main path, that sort of central path that runs from the main gate out all the way out to Pixar Pier, if you come in that way, your first thing you're going to see is the Web-Slingers building, which houses an amazing attraction. We'll talk about attractions in a minute. And it's where Spider-Man hangs out. So this is a big, huge red building. And on the roof, all day long, there are stunt shows with Spider-Man up there doing all kinds of cool tricks. A lot of aerial Cirque du Soleil kind of stuff that somehow they're doing up on this rooftop. He will climb down off the roof with his spider web. It's really cool. It's, of course, got humor because a Spider-Man theme, and well worth stopping to take a look. There's not seating or anything. It's just you stand below and look up at the roof and see the show. It's going on almost continuously. So if you're spending any time in this land, you'll probably notice it start up at some point. You can go check it out. Then as you move farther into the land, that's when you're going to see the Collector's Fortress, which was the Tower of Terror, but it is now the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride. The tower, it literally towers over the whole land. The theming on the building is really cool. I mean, especially at night, that there's stuff lighting up. There's steam coming out. It makes noises. It's pretty hard to ignore. And it is kind of in the back of the land. So you've got that in the background. On the way towards that is where you're going to see the Avengers headquarters building, which has a full-size Quinjet on the roof and will one day house a total over-the-top headliner attraction. Besides that, in the land, you've got Doctor Strange has an ancient sanctum where he hangs out and does a show. And there's food offerings, and there are just a lot of cool little details to see. Now, one of the things that really makes the campus so fun is the number of character interactions that are taking place. It's pretty hard to spend any time in the land without seeing at least 1 or 2 characters from the MCU movies. During the COVID era right now, the characters keep their distance depending on who they are. You will see, and you can get close up to characters like Iron Man and Black Panther because they already wear a mask and can stand for pictures and stuff. Some of the other characters are, what they're doing is they're just having them up on the rooftops. So you might notice, if you're looking up at the Quinjet, you might see Captain Marvel up there, checking it out, getting it ready to fly, or Black Widow. Loki and Thor will hang out there and talk to the crowd below. We have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp up there. just a lot, pretty much any of the major characters, you're going to find them here in the land. And as things loosen up, you will have a lot more interaction with them, be able to get autographs, pictures, and all that stuff. But they behave as if this is their headquarters and they are working. So you will see them interacting with the Quinjet. You will see them doing training at the Dora Milaje. They come out and do training and do a demonstration right in the middle of the path. The character interactions really that is what brings this land to life. And it's a good reason why you're not going to want to just pop into this land. You really want to think about coming in, spending some time walking around, enjoying the atmosphere. Maybe you go do something else and then come back, because you will probably see different characters and get to interact with them. So let's talk about the attractions, the rides in this land. Avengers Campus has two major attractions. They are the Spider-Man Web-Slingers ride and the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride. The Spider-Man ride is brand new, built for this land, and there is nothing like it at any other Disney park anywhere. The closest thing, I think, to the experience in the Web Slingers ride is Toy Story Midway Mania, which it seems kind of weird because that's like sort of a kid's ride, but it's basically this attraction is like that times 100. So I won't get into too many details. I don't want to spoil it, but just to give you a sense of what the Web Slingers ride is. You ride in a vehicle and you have to capture spider bots that have gotten loose because Peter Parker kind of messed up and now they're everywhere and they're going to take over the campus and he needs help to capture them. So you have to capture them by shooting webs at the spiders. And this is all on screens, but it is amazingly realistic. And the coolest thing, in my opinion, is that the way that you shoot the webs out is just by waving your hands. There's nothing to hold on to. It's basically a really, really modern version of a shooting gallery, but there's not like a gun you shoot or a trigger you pull. You don't touch anything. You just fling your arms, and that's what the web shoots out from. And it is amazingly accurate. When you move your hand, you will see in front of you, it will look like a web is shooting out and hopefully zapping these rogue spider bots. And the ride takes you through a series of rooms, which is, you're traveling, the images are, you're traveling underneath the campus and you're trying to get all these spider bots. It's really fun. I think it's probably most fun for people who have a lot of gaming experience. That's not me, so I found it a little disorienting. But if for no other reason, it is worth riding just to see the technology in action. And the story is, pretty basic, but there's lots of explosions and, it's Marvel. So it's sort of like being in a Spider-Man movie, basically. This ride, since it is basically brand new and it's not the same as anything else, this is really popular. So this is one of those things that you're going to want to prioritize, either by getting to the park early or by using whatever system Disney at the time is giving you to skip the line. They have done virtual queues. They, I believe, are now using their Genie Plus system for you to get some kind of a fast pass. It may be a paid pass at this point to skip the line. Whatever I tell you today will probably be different tomorrow. So just be aware that this one, you're probably not going to want to just show up at 3 p.m. and get in line. You could be in line a really long time, but it is definitely worth waiting for, or at least making a plan to ride it. My best recommendation is try to do it at when the park opens at Rope Drop. And one other tip related to the Web-Slingers ride that you may not see somewhere else, but I think it's important, is that if you are an arachnophobe, this ride is probably not for you. The spider bots are just they're clearly robots. It's not like there's any images of actual spiders, but these little guys are, the story is that they're loose and they're all over. So, and they move like spiders. So if you are super sensitive to that kind of thing, I would say skip this ride because it might trigger you. It's definitely got a lot of spider imagery, even though it's very cartoonish, but be aware of that. So don't make your friend who doesn't like spiders go on this ride against their will. They'll not have fun. Okay. But if you're not sensitive to that, you're going to have a great time. It'll be super fun. The other ride in the land is the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout ride, which if you have ever ridden the Tower of Terror, you will be familiar with the ride, except that it's not the same. And it's in kind of a subtle way that it's not the same. The actual ride it's a drop ride. So, you are going to be seated in a vehicle that's getting shot up in the air and dropping down. That is the way the Tower of Terror ride works, and it still works that way. And personally, I don't love drop rides, but I have to tell you right now that this particular ride is one of my favorite attractions anywhere. And maybe I'm crazy, but that's just how it is. So here's why. This attraction, not only does it have a story which is humorous because it's based on the Guardians of the Galaxy, which, humor is such a big part of their stories. The story here is that the Collector has captured the Guardians and they are locked in the tower and they're trying to get out, and you're going to help them get out. So when you get into your seat, Rocket's going to be telling you what to do. And then once the ride starts, it's this crazy story going on. And it feels like you're part of a Guardians movie. And one of the things that really makes it extra fun is the soundtrack for the ride, which is based on the soundtrack for the movies. So when you sit down, the music starts and it's always something really fun. And then the ride shoots up in the air, and the going up is actually really fun. And by the time you're going back down, it's already like, at least for me, my brain's already decided this is fun. Instead of dreading the drop, which is what the Tower of Terror story does, that makes you really tense until the ride drops. With this one, it's all about shooting up, and then the doors open and you see the Guardians and they're trying to get out, and then you drop down and then you go up and down again. I always laugh so hard. It's really fun. It is, again, warning about the ride. It is definitely physical. And for people who don't want it to be shot around in a ride, they're probably going to want to stay on the ground. But if you like thrill rides, and especially if you like the Guardians of the Galaxy, then you should definitely check this one out. And this ride actually has been themed to the Guardians of the Galaxy since 2017. So, this is something that if you've been to Disneyland in the last 5 years, then you probably have already experienced this. But there's really something to the fact that now it's part of an entire land that's themed after Marvel that makes it even more fun. So if you've ridden it before as the Guardians ride and you enjoyed it, then I think you're really going to even like it more now that it's part of this whole ecosystem that's all about Marvel. Okay, so now let's talk about food. Avengers Campus has several different dining options, which I think are all really good. They don't have a sit-down restaurant. It's all quick service, but it's all really interesting food and it's good food. The main dining option is called Pym Test Kitchen. It is a quick service restaurant with a lot of outdoor seating because it's California and it's lovely to be outside pretty much always, unlike Orlando. And the Pym Test Kitchen, the premise is that it literally is the Pym Labs test kitchen. So there's some weird stuff that's going on in this kitchen. So if you get a pretzel, it is going to be bigger than your head. If you get an egg, it's going to be tiny. I don't know what kind of bird these eggs are coming from, but it is going to be a really little egg. So they're really playing with proportions. One of the best things to get here is the chicken sandwich. They call it the not so little chicken sandwich. And what it is basically, if you know what chicken schnitzel is, so it's like a crispy, like fried chicken, not just like a chicken patty, but like pounded out flat chicken breast with breading and delicious seasoning. So they've taken that and put some sauce on it and then stuck it on a little like slider bun. So the sandwich, you can't eat it like a sandwich because the bun is tiny and the chicken's just like totally sticking out. That is delicious. Also, they do things like they make this huge panini sandwich. They call it the family size Pymini. They say it serves 6 to 8 people. So if you have a group, you can order this gigantic sandwich and share it. So that's the kind of thing that they have at the Pym Test Kitchen. And they do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I've got a picture of our breakfast on the show notes if you want to see what that looks like. We ate both breakfast and lunch there over the time when we visited, and everything was really good. And those show notes, by the way, if you want to check it out, are at goinform.net/75. Next to the Pym Test Kitchen is the Pym Tasting Lab, which is basically a bar. So this is something to know about California Adventure. Unlike Disneyland, California Adventure has always had alcoholic beverage options. They have a winery tasting room at California Adventure. They've always had, artisan beers on tap and that kind of thing. It's focused on California and originally, they really put a lot of emphasis on local food and drink, and it has stuck around. And here in Avengers Campus, they have the Pym Tasting Lab where they've got a whole bunch of artisanal beers on tap, and they also do some really unusual cocktails because it's the Pym Tasting Lab. So again, you're going to see some things that have a twist, from just normal. And it is a open air space. So it's a really good space to stop and get a cold drink and people watch and, check out what's going on all the rooftops and just be in the place. And it's definitely a good place for an afternoon rest. And then the other thing I want to point out in terms of food at Avengers Campus is the Shawarma Palace. So Shawarma Palace is mentioned in some of the Avengers movies and the Spider-Man movies. It's a cart in New York where Tony Stark likes to go, and he'll go and get shawarma and bring it back for the Avengers, or they'll all go, or, you will recognize this shawarma cart when you see it in the land. And again, I got a picture of it in the show notes. So shawarma is basically like if you like a gyro, a Greek gyro, that's kind of what shawarma is. It's chopped up. They do a chicken one. So it's like chopped up chicken with this wonderful seasoning. And then they put it on a pita bread, and it's kind of like a wrap with sort of a Middle Eastern seasoning. It is delicious, you guys, and just the right size for either like a little light meal or a snack. The shawarma cart also does falafel. So for people who are wanting to do plant-based food, that's a really good option for them. There's 2 shawarma carts in Avengers Campus on kind of either end of the campus. You really can't miss it. And you really need to stop and get one and try it with your group. I think you're going to want more. So be sure to stop at the shawarma cart and get yourself a snack. Now, you also need your merch, right? So Disney will not disappoint you in terms of Avengers and Marvel merchandise. The best place to shop for the Marvel stuff is actually kind of on the edge of the land. It's called the Backlot Premier Shop, and it's kind of not in Avengers Campus. It's in a big building over in the Hollywoodland section of the park, which is just next to the campus. If you go out through the entrance that's near the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, then that's going to put you in the right part of the park. It's inside of this soundstage, basically next to the Monsters, Inc. ride, and it is a huge store. And they have all kinds of stuff. I mean, they have the basic like t-shirts and stuff like that in there, but they also have comic books. They have all kinds of collectible stuff. They have action figures. They have like statues of the characters that you can purchase. If you're a Marvel fan, you are going to want to spend some time and money inside this shop. And it is really kind of hidden. So make sure that you make the effort to head over and look for the store, because it also doesn't say like the Marvel store on the outside. I think it really does say Backlot Premier Shop. That's what it says on the Disney maps. So be sure to check it out. On the show notes, I actually have a little snapshot of the park map showing where it is. So if you want to even get, more detail, go over to the show notes at goinform.net/75 and look for that. And something else I haven't mentioned yet, but it really does add to the atmosphere of the land, is the music. Much like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the score for the movies is such a huge part of the feeling you get when you think about these characters and the stories. And in terms of putting you into the place, the Marvel Avengers soundtrack is a huge part of setting the scene. So as soon as you step into the land, you're going to hear the score from the movies, especially from the Avengers movies, and it really does put you right into that place. Let's talk about some touring tips for visiting Avengers Campus. So the first thing that I think it's really important to know is that this is a place that looks different during the day than it does at night. You absolutely need to see it both in the daylight and after dark. After dark, it's just amazing what happens with the lighting and the effects. And I think it just even envelopes you even more into the story. If you're there in the daylight, though, that's important too, because there's a lot of little like Easter eggs all around the land. The little spider bots that you're trying to catch in the Web-Slingers ride, they are all over the land. You will see them like stuck up on the side of a wall or whatever, just like all around. You could spend all day just going around trying to find all the little spider bots that are all around. And that's definitely like a daylight kind of activity. But at night with the lighting and everything, it just takes on this whole different sort of mystical feeling. And that's also when I recommend that you check out Doctor Strange's show at his Ancient Sanctum. This is a really cool, basically magic show, but no, it's way, way different from that. They do such a good job of casting their characters. You will think that Doctor Strange is right there talking to you. The Ancient Sanctum this is kind of unusual. You don't go into it. You see the door to get inside, and outside there's all kinds of like glowing orbs and such. But the actual show takes place outside in front of the sanctum. And so As the audience, you're just standing around where Doctor Strange is talking. I mean, you're right there with him. It's a very kind of intimate experience. And I'd say only maybe 100 people at the most can be in the space there to see the show at any one time. At night, the effects with the lighting and everything just take it up a whole nother notch. For sure, that's the time to see it. A little tip about seeing Doctor Strange's show: you're going to want to get there a little bit early to make sure that you have your space, that you get a spot to see the show. And you'll want to line up along the wall heading towards the Cars Land. So get there like 20 minutes before the show's going to start, and you'll probably already see a line forming. But that way you'll be sure to get in and be kind of closer to the front. Another tip I'll just reiterate is rope dropping. The Web-Slingers ride, I think, makes a ton of sense. So if you are planning to rope drop California Adventure, make Web-Slingers one of your first stops. The Mission Breakout ride is also a good rope drop option because a lot of people rope drop it, but it's a pretty high capacity. So it takes a while for the line to get really going. So if you go to the Mission Breakout ride first, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, you'll probably get to ride it 2 or 3 times in a row before you really have any kind of line to wait in. So if you love that ride and you want to do it multiple times, that is also a really good one to do first thing when the park opens. By the way, rope drop, if you want some tips about that, scroll back in the archives of the show to my episode about rope drop, because I got a lot of tips for how to do it, how to get there in time, and what to expect. So check that one out. And the last thing I would mention in terms of planning your touring and your trip is, as I said at the start of the show, with the addition of the Avengers Campus, Disneyland has really become a multi-day destination. There is no way you can see everything at Disneyland and California Adventure and really spend the time you want to in a land like Avengers Campus unless you've got 2 or 3, really 3 days, I think is ideal in the parks. You know, besides the Avengers, there's also an incredible Star Wars land over at Disneyland, which is called Galaxy's Edge. And there's also a couple episodes about that if you scroll back in the archives. Those new lands, along with all the other classic stuff that you can do at Disneyland and at California Adventure, really mean that you can plan this as a destination on its own, a place where you can go get your theme park fix over the course of several days in a row and really, really dive into it. And that's what I recommend. I really do recommend that you get a hotel room right outside the park gates or stay with one of the Disney hotels, have a fantastic long weekend, or even better, try to go midweek, because then you're going to have a lot fewer of the locals there filling up the lines. And on the website, on the show notes, there's a map of all the hotels that are around there. If you want to just kind of explore, head over there and check it out on the show notes. So as you can see, I think Avengers Campus is an amazing addition to all the cool things you can do at Disneyland. And it is a very unique place right now in the world. But if you really want to do the Marvel stuff, you do have some other places you can visit. If you go back to episode 68 of this show, you will find out where else in the US you can experience Marvel. And also Disneyland Paris this summer 2022, is going to be opening their edition of Avengers Campus, which will not be exactly the same as this one. The idea, Disney's really piggybacking on this, their idea is that there will be Avengers campuses around the world, which are places where the Avengers can go depending on where they need to be. So they could be in Paris, or they could be in LA, or they can be maybe Shanghai or wherever next will be. So if you really want to do like the worldwide Marvel tour, there's even more options coming soon. But California is right in our backyard here in the US, and it is totally worth visiting and checking it out. Okay, guys, well, I hope I've convinced you to visit Disneyland sometime soon. Again, if you want to see the show notes, those are at goinformed.net/75. I will be posting lots of video and pictures up on my Instagram page going forward here with lots of stuff from Avengers Campus. You can find me on Instagram at goinformednet. And you can find me on Facebook, same place. So, and if you have any questions or feedback or comments or anything, you can always message me through Instagram and Facebook too. Thanks for joining me today. I am looking forward to talking more theme parks with you next time. So I will see you in a few weeks.